My mother died when I was 10. My father married a goyish woman less than a year later, who promptly did her best to have as many children as she could, and had 3 in as many years. She has 2 older kids too, who are 8 and 7 now. 6 kids is a lot, but it's a pretty big house. I'm the only grandchild on my mother's side, and the only granddaughter on either side. My grandparents typically gift me jewelry, and I got my mother's collection when she died. As a religious custom, we don't really do costume jewelry. All of my jewelry is real and not cheap. It sounds vulgar, but my entire jewelry collection is worth about 100k easily. I came home from seeing a friend, and the oldest 3 had a pile of my jewelry on the floor of their playroom. They had been jumping on it, smashing it and shooting at it with BB guns. Yeah, my father allows that apparently. I screamed and got my father, who came with his wife, and dismissed the entire thing. They destroyed multiple pieces, several of which were heirloom. My stepmother didn't really care. She pretended to yell at her brats. She later came home with a dollar store necklace that she made the kids get me, and said that that should be enough, and that I shouldn't have such idols or wear such sacrilegious crap. One of my necklaces is a Star of David. I saw her edit that. I got her to repeat it so I could record it. I emailed all of my grandparents, aunts and uncles detailing what happened, attaching the recording and pictures of the damage, and then I went to those brats' playroom and destroyed one of each of their favorite toys. My grandparents are now suing my stepmother for $50,000, and half of my family now hates her. My father is furious and thinks that I should have kept it within the family and let him work it out. Not the idiot. I'm glad your grandparents are suing, because seriously letting her kids destroy jewelry is pathetic. I really suggest moving all the jewelry you have left to your grandparents, because I wouldn't be surprised if she will steal some. Maybe move in with your grandparents as well, if possible, because it sounds like your stepmom will make your life hell. Your stepmother's anti-Semitic comment and your father's dismissal of that was especially telling of how awful they are. I almost had an everyone's the idiot here, because you're destroying the kids' things isn't okay, but I can understand your anger and desire for revenge. The loss of things that connect you to your mother and her family, the financial loss, the selfish behavior and racism of your stepmother, and the betrayal of your father are rage-inducing. However, always try not to lash out against children. They only know what their parents have taught them, which isn't much. Everyone's the idiot here. You are less of the idiot than the others, and your stepmother and father are the worst but you seriously broke some kids' toys out of spite. Also, describing your stepmom having as many kids as she could as a negative character trait is sexist. People have kids, it's a pretty value-neutral thing. I get you're pissed, and anyone would be, and I hope your extended family is able to get the jewelry repaired. Your stepmother and father were way out of line. But you also need to grow up. Let me start this out by defining public. We, 24 and 27, are public. Anyone I care about knows about our relationship. The only people we aren't very public with is my family. So by public, I mean being open with my family. Important to know that we are an interracial couple. I'm white, he's black. Now let me explain why we haven't been public. We met in high school. I was a freshman, and he was a senior. I had a huge crush on him. We texted and flirted, but nothing really happened. He lived in a large foster family home, so no dates allowed. My parents told me he was too old. They told me I was not allowed to speak with him until I was 18, and my dad told him to never contact me again. When I left for college, we started chatting again and had our first date. I told my mom we were talking. She said to only date people with nuclear families and to not talk to him till I was 21. When I corrected her and said it was 18, she told me she was going to drag me home by my hair. In my second year of college, we made it official that we were dating. I texted my mom before Thanksgiving break that I wanted them to meet him. She harassed me about whether I was pregnant and refused to meet him. I told her in a crowded restaurant we officially dating, and she got mad at me for hiding things. Over the course of the next couple years, every time he got brought up, I could visibly watch her demeanor change. When I tried talking about him in front of family, my dad told me that they weren't ready. I eventually just stopped talking about him to them. Eventually my aunt saw his profile picture of us on Facebook and figured it out. My mom said she assumed we broke up because I wasn't talking about him. Now, I'm moving, he's coming with me, and we want to get married after 5 years together. We both have our masters, and I'm starting on my PhD. My dad told me that my fiancé and I haven't done good at being open about our relationship. When I mentioned how mom threatened me, his only response was, I didn't say there weren't reasons. He suggested that I give them a year of an open relationship in order to let the bad guys act like bad guys. I tried, they resisted, I stopped. I want my best friend with me when I take this huge step in life. My mom and her family's position on interracial relationships and racism are quite clear-cut and explicit. I'm not exposing him to that, and I don't want to experience it. But is that insensitive? Would I be the idiot for not entertaining the idea of giving them a chance to get used to our relationship before we get married? Your family is horrible. Full stop. There is no need to give your parents a year of your relationship being public. They'll likely use this year to come between you and your fiancé. They will continue to be horrible and negative throughout the wedding planning process and your marriage. Shield your partner from them as much as you can. As a black girl who dates a lot of white men, I know how painful it is to know your partner's family feel disdainful towards you. It's your life and your choice who to have a relationship with, and as long as it's otherwise a healthy and happy one, more power to you. It sounds an awful lot like your mom wanted to seize upon any excuse she could to disapprove without outright saying it's because of his race, and every time you address one of the concerns she's voiced, she moves the goalposts a little further because in the end, there's nothing he can do that will be good enough if she's determined not to approve. Hopefully, she'll see that you're happy and doing well and come around, but that has to be her choice, nobody can do it for her. You're very much adults. You don't need to do anything regarding your relationship in order to appease anyone's parents. You lovebirds made it here on your own merit, despite what they thought of your partnership. Maybe one day your family can give you the support you deserve from them, but until then, focus on your happiness and don't worry about pleasing them or living a life they deem acceptable. You do you. I, 27, have a little sister, Emily, 20. My husband, 27, and I have been together since our college days. Back when we started dating, Emily, who was 13 or 14 then, seemed to have this little crush on my husband, then boyfriend. She would blush in his presence, stutter while talking to him, etc. We assumed that the crush went away as she grew older, and her behavior indicated so. My husband thinks of Emily as the little sister he never had and treats her as such. We've not had much contact with Emily over the years, as we live in a different state at the other side of the country and she's been busy with her schooling. Last week, my parents and Emily were visiting our house for my birthday weekend. From the moment Emily arrived, she would not stop flirting with my husband. From excessively complimenting everything he did to proclaiming things like they would make a great pair, etc. My husband looked very uncomfortable, and so did my parents. I don't know how we got through the dinner. After the evening was done, my husband asked me if there was something wrong with Emily and that why was she behaving like that. He said she made him very uncomfortable and asked me to talk to her. So I found her alone and tried telling her that it was fine if she had or has a crush, but it's never fine to make anyone uncomfortable. I told her that it would be nice if she kept her distance for the remaining 2 days they were here, since he was not okay with this behavior. She said she wasn't being flirty or improper. I told her that she was indeed being inappropriate and it was very creepy that she would try to flirt with my husband. She got very defensive and said that I was being insecure and I quote, if I was really flirting with him, you wouldn't stand a chance. I lost it at this point and told her that she's no longer welcome in our house and should back off the first thing in the morning. Emily and my parents left the very next day, even though my dad agreed that Emily's behavior throughout the evening was very inappropriate and that she should apologize to my husband. Mom thinks nothing of that sort happened and all three of us are being delusional and that it was an idiot move to kick Emily, and by extension her, out of my house when they traveled all the way here. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Has your mum got a habit of covering for your sister's bad behavior? I ask as you said she looked uncomfortable at dinner as well, but then turned around defending your sister. If it was my sister I would be tempted to bounce her head off the curb, not for the flirting, she's only embarrassing herself there, more for the you wouldn't stand a chance comment, as if she has something over you. Ask your mum if she would allow some woman to say those things to her after flirting with her husband. Your husband shouldn't feel uncomfortable in his own home. The fact that he actually came to you to talk about this is a sign you're not delusional in any way and that the flirting you saw was legit. You made the right choice at the end of the day. Your sister is 20 years old and is well aware of what she was doing. She's just pissed she got caught. Guessing she's upset that your husband didn't return the gesture. Better to kick her out. I've heard some horror stories that husband cheated on wife with her younger sister. You want to avoid that. Back when she was teenager it may have been cute, but she is 20 years old. It's inappropriate and boundaries like that shouldn't be crossed. It's kind of you letting her stay, but you aren't obligated to. Considering she is disrespectful. Mom is being weird and struggling, surely she is aware, but doesn't want to admit that one of her daughters tried to flirt with her other daughter's husband. My last few years have been hellish because my dad got caught having an affair with a college girl. My mom decided to stay with him at the time, they'd fight constantly, but now, years later, they're divorcing. I wanted to know and understand more, but my parents wouldn't tell me much. They wanted to keep things between themselves. So this year, I reached out to his mistress. I sent her a message on Instagram to say that I know this would sound weird, but I'd like to talk and understand things better. And to my great surprise, I got an answer. She said she could talk, she feels like she owes it to me. I had to bite back some of the uglier things I impulsively wanted to say, because I was trying to understand, not fight. I found out the affair started when she was 18 and in college. She signed up for a sugar baby website. She needed money, she had a full-ride academic scholarship, but money was very tight, and her scholarship didn't cover housing over holidays that she needed because her family had kicked her out. The arrangement with my dad lasted through freshman and sophomore year. She knew he was married, but she felt she didn't have options. She was working food service along with classes and was still barely making it. She stopped the arrangement when she landed a summer internship that allowed her to save up. But she couldn't get it out of her head. She'd been feeling a lot of guilt involving our family and her choices. She's gone to therapy and tried to get her life under control since, but she can't shake that feeling. I came into the conversation expecting to hate her through and through. But I realize, I don't blame her, she was my damn age at the time and trying to make it work. I felt better having talked and I think she did too. I don't think we'll keep talking or anything, but I feel like I have a new understanding of things and that brings me peace. So everything was great for a while until I had a conversation with my brother and admitted I'd talked to my father's sugar baby. He was like, "What, sugar baby?" And the truth came out. He got angry enough that my dad was spending our family's money in that way that he confronted my dad. Then my dad confronted me. He was really mad that I'd gone behind his back and met with a girl. He said that this stuff was something he and my mother wanted to keep between the adults only. I snapped at him and said that if he wanted it to be adult business, he shouldn't have gotten involved with someone young enough to be my classmate. He was even madder to hear that. Am I the idiot for meeting with my dad's mistress? Not the idiot. I'm actually really impressed by how respectful you and she both were to each other and about the whole situation. Ironically, it sounds like the two youngest members of this whole thing are acting with more maturity than your dad, who's mad at you for sticking your nose in adult business. You also gave this young woman a way to apologize to, and that will likely help her move past this and go on with her life knowing that yes, she has to live with what she did, but that she at least got a chance to apologize to someone she hurt by her actions. Very well done. I've largely been open with my kids about my own divorce from their birth father, but there are some things I've told them were grown-up problems that they don't need to worry about, but that maybe when they're older and more capable of handling the information, if they want to know more, we can talk about those things. I think telling them the whole truth would potentially poison them against their birth father, and while I personally wish he'd fall off the face of the planet, I don't believe in intentionally turning kids against the other parent, regardless of how I feel. Your father's affair does not only impact your mother. I understand your mother is hurting, but so are you, and you have every right to be. You knew enough to know of the affair, and that doesn't bring you peace or closure. You have every right to seek that peace and closure if your parents aren't providing it to you. Are they selfishly assuming this doesn't affect you? That's absurd. Unfortunately, this was the situation, but you had every right to want more information to understand and move on with your life. Also, you are not the idiot for your response to your dad. Every couple of weeks me, 24, and my friends get together for a classic movie night at my house. We drink, joke around, and watch old movies deemed to be important to film. Good times. The problem, one friend, 23, has been through an awful trauma recently which has affected her profoundly. Our group has really huddled around her to make sure she is okay and lend our support any way we can, but in the last few times we got together, she got triggered by the graphic scenes in the films we were watching and politely asks that we stop. Of course we all wanted to be sensitive, so both times we immediately turned it off and the group quickly dispersed after, kind of a bummer. Independently, friends from the group have asked that I not invite her the next time because we want to watch Clockwork Orange, which will definitely be triggering to her. Since I'm hosting, it is up to me, but since I usually invite everyone via group chat that she is in, it would require some maneuvering to exclude her. God, I feel like such an idiot, but my friends and I really want to be free to watch what we want without worrying about making her uncomfortable. Would I be the idiot if I went out of my way to not invite her? You're the idiot. There are in fact classic films without graphic scenes in them you could watch. At the very least, talk to her instead of pulling some middle school nonsense. Can 100% guarantee she will be more upset at discovering you've stopped inviting her than she will if you privately say something along the lines of, "Hey, we're planning on watching Clockwork Orange next time, you want to risk it, or would you rather skip it?" You're the idiot. If you just don't invite her. Because it sounds like you all have a close relationship and she needs you, and if she were to find out that you just decided not to invite her at all, it could hurt the relationship. Rather, instead tell her that you all will be watching Clockwork Orange and that it does have some graphic scenes. Since she had a hard time the last couple of times, just let her know that it's okay if she doesn't want to come and your feelings won't be hurt. There are plenty of important, film nerdy movies you can watch and still include her. She's just recently been through a trauma. The last thing she needs right now is her friends telling her she's too screwed up now to hang out with them. I know that's not at all how you'd mean it, but speaking from experience, it's how she'd take it. Put Scorsese and Kubrick on hold. Watch some Elaine May comedies, or even some early Spielberg or something. Your friendship should be more important than bootleg film school.